Imagine a vibrant discussion between people that includes both openness and critical thought in the pursuit of truth. The Purchasing Truth podcast is an experience, a journey, an exploration of the impact that negative messages in politics and the media have on our families, community, society, and nation. Join your hosts, Bill Stierle and Tom Hazard, to discover new concepts and language strategies that will reveal effective ways of establishing truth. This podcast series will tackle current events, leadership challenges, healthcare confusion, integrity in business, and many other areas that affect us all. Gain clarity and understanding of the various truth perspectives. Welcome to Purchasing Truth.
Hey everyone, welcome to Purchasing Truth. I'm Tom Hazard with your host Bill Stierle and Bill. Today we're going to talk about the second debate between President Donald Trump and former Vice President Joe Biden. And I want to set this up for our listeners because this is going to be a message in stark contrast to probably what they have seen and read since the debate. And especially if they watched it and watched any kind of mainstream media right after the debate, because they're talking about who landed the most punches, fact checking them, who was right and who was wrong, all these sorts of things. And really that misses the much bigger point of what the debate really accomplished and also could have accomplished for each candidate. And so I'm excited to talk about that with you today.
Likewise, Tom. I think the what is the purpose of the debate and what the candidates come in with is what the belief about what the purpose of the debate is what's really, greatly missing in our discussion in media, news writing and things like that. They're the cultural and academic way to look at journalism, to the way to look at broadcast media. Where is this a conservative media? Is this a liberal media? And how do they spin the messages? And then all of a sudden, the expectation to talk about getting the message out or about policy or about facts and accuracy is actually not the big picture. It literally is secondary, and so far secondary that maybe it's a fourth of the issue at best. And that's really weird, to come out, because as a communication podcast, this is about what do you say to get engagement. This is not about whose policy is right and whether or not Joe Biden said he doesn't like fracking or not. I mean, it's not about whether he not likes fracking.
Well, and the thing is, Bill, I agree with you. All media could talk about afterwards is, about that fact checking. Oh, we're going to find the video. Trump's going to put it on his website. Every media outlet is fact checking that to see if he said he, wants to ban fracking. And it's like everybody's chasing a ghost. Everybody's chasing that. Is that true? Is it not? And they're all missing the bigger point. And that is what messages landed in the minds of the voters, especially the potentially undecided or, leaning a little bit one way or the other, but maybe could be swayed voters.
Yeah. Well, I really appreciate this moment in time because it's really the cookie test. And the cookie test, Tom, is that when you go to your 9-year-old, or I go to my now 14-year-old, when I go to him and I'm holding up the cookie, the need for health as a fact is not relevant to the child. It is not it. All I need to know with this cookie holding up is, do I believe it to be true? Do I believe it to be tasty? Do I believe it validates what I believe is important? And so, for example, I think CNN and a couple people did some post debates with undecided voters. And they asked them, well, Do you think it's the health of the nation, or do you think it's the economy? Those voters were going like, I really see how the economy is really important. We can't, as a nation, keep not keeping our economy going. And well, is it the expense of the health of Americans? Should we lose how many is too many? Well, is 250,000 too many, or is 500,000 too many, or is it 1,000,000? Is that too many when we say, I don't think the economy is all that important? It's like the viewer does, just like the child, does not have the bandwidth to actually, and the experience of what it's going to be, what it's like to lose 250,000 people in a pandemic, or to lose 500,000 people, where we're probably going to land maybe a couple million worldwide. They don't see that, because their world is their economy, their ability to purchase things, their ability to go out to the restaurant, the ability to go back to a football game. I brought it back. I brought football back. That's not about whether he did it or not. That's, I am speaking to your greatest value or your greatest need. And now the listener's going like, cookie. They're the listener's going like, cookie, I want to go back to my football game. Cookie, I want to go back to my NFL game. I want to sit in the watch my basketball game. I want my cookie back. Where's my cookie?
So this really points to why Trump in this debate actually achieved quite a bit of success, didn't he?
He did. The point of the debate, of which no one really is particularly talking about, is how much doubt and skepticism did I cast upon my opponent? And how did I frame that doubt and skepticism in their direction so that they took a ding on truth and trust? That's who scored the most points. Did President Trump cast enough doubt and skepticism in Joe Biden's direction to get his voter to stay loyal? So that's the way I would prefer media reporting this. Who won is not who got the most facts correct. Who won is who creates most in doubt and skepticism towards the leadership of the other candidate is the one who scored more points or won the debate.
So the interesting thing is Trump, as a marketer and brander, is inherently well suited to do that.
So great at that.
Not only is a marketer and brander, but his very nature. I mean, this guy doesn't really have much regard for facts and the truth anyway. No. I mean, I think that's very clear after 4 years of, seeing this president. And, of course, CNN, NBC, all these different news outlets keep tallying up how many lies he's told over the years. And it's, it's in the 5 figures. It's like 11, that's 12, right. 13,000 or something. So what? That's just a number. Yeah. And, focusing on that is not going to help because you're right. He threw a lot of doubt and skepticism in Joe Biden's direction. And he did it spouting a lot of things that are just not true.
Correct.
But he got Joe Biden to take the bait and have to talk about that fact, which even if Joe's right, it's sort of a on the impact meter, right?
It's too late. It's already, the button's already been pushed inside the listener, inside the loyal person. The one, it's is that if I'm casting doubt and skepticism on another person, truth and trust comes back to me because I'm acting like I know the truth. And when somebody is acting in the confidence of knowing truth and casting doubt and skepticism on the other person, that person looks like more of a leader. Of course, it's kind of like a leader that is taking you down a path that is not in alignment with truth, just in alignment with where they would like to go, not necessarily what's best for the nation or what's best for the thing. No, it's where they want to go, and they're going to try to claim truth and trust for their own. And so the comment I like the most in the debate, I just like rolled my eyes. I go like, he finds new ways to do it. And here's one. I'll pretend I'm Trump right now, and this is not verbatim by any means. Biden casts himself as a down home man, and as somebody thinks he's not even from Scranton. He's not even from wherever he's not even from that. The listener says, well, what do you know that he's not from that? They don't say, I'm trusting Joe that he's from where he say he is, even though he was born there. I am looking at him as he's confident, and his confidence gets him more truth and trust because he's counting doubt and skepticism. Now, there's an antidote that I really hope Joe and other politicians start doing when people do this kind of grasping of truth and trust in their direction. I really want people to call a person out on that technique. It's a communication technique. See, it's the same thing that happened with the birtherism.
Okay.
It's the same thing. Well, he's not even from this country. He's really from Kenya. What they're doing is they're trying to claim truth on their side. They don't care about the truth. They care about the vote or the loyalty. They just want to keep their person on their side. They're looking for irrelevant, red herring discussions to take place to take energy away from the other person. Does that make some sense?
It does. But what should Joe have said when Donald Trump said, he's not even from Scranton, you're not even from Scranton. What should Joe Biden have said?
Oh, so you're trying to cast doubt and skepticism with me about where I'm from, about where I'm grown up? Well, people don't believe that you're a millionaire either. They don't even think you're a billionaire. So I feel doubtful about your income, and I feel doubtful about your being truthful. At least I have a track record of telling honesty more than you do. See, he's got to go after the doubt and skepticism, casting doubt and skepticism in the other direction. So you're feeling doubt and skepticism about Hunter. That's an interesting technique. Well, what I feel doubtful about is how much money your children are stealing from other countries because they're using your office as a political favor. Actually, you're doing it more than I am. And even though it's truthful that my son hasn't done it, but your kids are raking it up. Gosh, I wonder how much money they're making. What are they into the 2 or 3 million or $1 billion right now from government and contracts? Is that what you're thinking? Is that what your experience? Oh, no wonder why you have a China account so that your kids can, get money through there. I guess that you're really not in integrity. Gosh, you know what? There is a lot of doubt and skepticism that's really swirling around you and your ability to do it. Immediately, he's purchasing truth, and he's pulling trust back on his side rather than trying to fight out of the paper bag that he's doing all the time, which is really unsettling.
Well, it is unsettling. I mean, look, Joe had his moments, and actually we'll talk about that in a little bit. I don't want to get distracted from this because this is a really good discussion. There was another thing that Trump kept saying. He said it once before, And I felt like Joe didn't have a good enough reply to it. And I'm curious what you would have said, Bill, is that, Trump keep saying to Joe Biden, Joe, you've had 47 years to do this. He keeps saying that you've had 47 years and basically trying to cast him as a, career politician who hasn't been able to achieve things in all that time. And why do we think he's going to achieve something now? So what would you say?
So you're feeling doubtful and skeptical about a life of service as a public servant. And you as a capitalist have really took advantage of us public servants by getting support from government and taking advantage in order to expand and market your brand. And I guess this presidency is just another way that you've taken advantage of us public servants that have slugged it out for 47 years while you sit in the line and grifting money away from the United States, just like the rest of your crew. I mean, I just said the rest of your crew. I just said the rest of your crew. Geez, you know what? One thing that you did tell the truth is that when you were elected president, you created the most legal and logistic of things. And you are so truthful about what you mired the government in is the most legally encumbered government. And you really, didn't provide your service and your oath as a public servant. You were not a public servant. You were a self-servant, but you weren't a public servant. See, now all of a sudden, I just relabeled him.
You did relabel him. I like that, as a self-servant, not a public servant.
Self-servant. You're not a public servant. A public servant hangs in there for 47 years and slugs out in difficult conversations. You are not even interested in difficult conversation. You can't even have a difficult conversation with me and you right now. Because you've got to, you'll walk away with this and you're going to tell everybody that a vaccine is coming and that you're going to save them. And it's just not true. If they elect you, it'll evaporate just like every other promise you've made to Americans.
Well, now I felt that on the virus is where Joe hammered President Trump, I thought, much better than a lot of topics, right? I mean, he really did focus on the enormity of the deaths and of, the people that don't have a family member sitting at the Thanksgiving table. And, Joe definitely plays more in the sort of talking to the people, the American people, directly, and relates to them. And I think that's very believable, as that he really does care about the American people.
Yeah. The need for care and the integrity around care. He's done a better job of that. I think there's been a lot of voters that are that will tend not to vote because they don't see a candidate that cares. I think Hillary had that problem too.
Yeah, Hillary definitely
they couldn't tell
there.
if she cared or not.
Yeah.
They knew she knew. She's a very smart woman. I mean, and she's very experienced. She knows where all the people are in government. I mean, she's a tremendous resource because she knows all the people. Trump did not spend any time learning where all the people are to get the job done. And actually where Trump's would have been what I would have advised one of Trump's weakest place is, could you tell me who your department of so-and-so is? Could you tell me who the person's in charge of this? When's the last time you met with the interior person? When's the last time that you did this with this person? Oh, you don't know the name of your own interior?
Or maybe go business, your commerce department or something.
Commerce department. Gosh, when was the last time you talked to your commerce department? Well, what was the initiative of your commerce department and what's your plan for them? He literally Trump Biden could have picked all the interpersonal runs. It's like, okay, who's your top skilled person there? I've been gone from government for 4 years, and here are the top 5 people I know that are skilled in that position. You don't have any of them working for you. Are you just going to pick the people that are loyal to you, or are you going to pick the people that are best to your country? Now, all of a sudden, I'm saying you have no ability to build teams. You have no ability to actually function and work a function. And we're going to give you 4 more years. You're asking them to give you 4, and just scoff at them. Just go like, you're going to ask them for 4 more years, and you don't even know who the top people are in commerce. Here's the top people in this. Here's the top people in health. Here's the top. You're not even using your resource. You can't build a team to save your life. How do we know that you can't build a team to save your life? You let the virus infect your White House, and you couldn't even take your own guidance from the people around you.
That would have
and
been
you're going to
really
ask Americans to trust you again? I feel doubtful and skeptical. Here it comes again. I feel doubtful and skeptical you're going to help us with health. I'm doubtful and skeptical about, and so on and so forth. Anyways, so I'm ranting a little bit, and I would probably coach this as a measured narrative, not as a ranting narrative, which I just coughed up. So, and I don't know, I just get worked up about it because it's second nature for me and you to talk about these issues and get worked up about it, because communication is not connected to truth and trust from it's the ability to use truth and trust in a way that serves you has not been messaged the way I would have liked it to be messaged. And this could be the same, and Trump could have expanded the things that I'm saying right now and used it for his behalf. He could have said, well, and if I'm on Trump's side, if I was giving him guidance, it would have been like, well, talk about how Joe did not, how he doesn't have awareness of the value of the fossil industry, and that you're trying to protect the fossil industry, and how valuable that would be to our economy, that you can't take the fossil industry away automatically, and how valuable it is to the number of jobs. You know what? We have this amount of people work in the fossil industry. What would it be like if those jobs went away? Now, all of a sudden, you just scared the crap out of a third of the nation. And they're going to go like, yeah, he's right about that. But you can't do it as the ranting person. And it's not like Trump doesn't rant just the way I just ranted, because I just ranted that way. Well, anyway, so actually, I gave you a lot to unpack, Tom, but there's a lot to do there. So,
well, there is. And I think Trump definitely succeeded at casting doubt and skepticism in Biden's direction. But he also, a lot of times, the more he talked, he just talked himself into a circle. It was like a dog chasing its own tail at times, Well,
I really am so delighted that you brought that point up. And this is the advantage of doing that. When a person is talking themselves in a circle like that, it's a technique called cultivating uncertainty. And it's what a hypnotist does when they're hypnotizing somebody. They say, think about this. Don't think about this. Think about this. Sleep. And then the person goes to sleep. And you're going like, what's the hypnotist doing to get this person to go to sleep? And then they put the message in. Scratch your head like a monkey. Scratch your head like a monkey. And all of a sudden the person scratches their head like a monkey. You go like, how did the hypnotist get past the person's logical mind? Is you give and I'm touching the back of my head for those of you listening, you're going right to the limbic brain, and you're you're bypassing the higher functions. And talking that you and I are, our higher functions are working. He's using circle talk to create uncertainty about Joe. He's creating uncertainty about his Joe's ability to do or communicate the way he communicates. Joe doesn't communicate the way he communicates, so it's a little boring. And he's right.
Well, see, to me, just as an observer, when Trump would do that and keep talking around and around in circles, and sometimes about things that seemingly weren't even relevant, I thought he was getting a little lost and just avoiding answering the question. I didn't think this was an intentional, other than avoiding answering the question. I didn't think it was always intentional.
It's a very common sales tactic to talk about something different right before you get them to sign the contract. So this is great. Can you imagine what it'll be like when you get this contract? That's great. Oh yeah. How are your kids doing? I mean, I'm being blatant right now and I'm being unethical, but really it's, you don't want to over explain something, which also Kamala gets in the problem with it, and Trump is not just Trump, but Pence is the master of uncertainty. Even he'll say, that's not what he said. He said that he was going to grab them by the pussy, but that's not what he meant. That's not what was going on there. Well, what was going on there? Well, he was connecting to his friend who was talking about the same thing, and he was just telling a story that he thought his friend would like. But he said he would grab them by the pussy. Yeah, he was just building rapport with the person he was selling and being in the bus. Oh my gosh. It's like, it's
he hasn't even gone to that. It was just locker room talk defense. He's instead just trying to make it seem like, oh, it really wasn't what you think it is. It's almost a Jedi mind trick, isn't it?
It is a little bit of the Jedi mind trick, but not from the place of integrity or respect or the pursuit of truth. It's like, I mean, Newt Gingrich used to do this all the time. He would say, very straightforward, it's not my job to fix the falsehood inside the voter. My job is just to get the voter to vote for me. If the voter believes something that's not true, it's not my job as a politician to fix the untruth. It's my job is to get them to vote for me. So if they want to believe something that's not factual, that's okay with me. I just want their vote because I got to get in office. Why do I get in office? Because when I'm in office, then I can do some things. Now, of course, do things that I believe that's valuable to the United States, not what's valuable to the United States. That's the shift from a politician to a statesman. And we haven't really talked about this particular much, but when a statesman gets into an office, they vote for what's the best for the country, not what's best for the party, and not what's best for the voter's belief. They're doing it what's the best for the country. Now, we're in a current very difficult situation right now regarding voting requires money. So now I need to not just do what's best for the voter, but I need what's best for the highest paying donor voter. So we're regrettably, our truth is literally being purchased on a couple of different levels here. And
well, I have a question. For you on part of this.
Feel sad.
Yeah. Well, I understand.
Sad.
I feel sad, honestly, about the whole thing too. I feel relieved this was the last debate and that we didn't actually have a second. Well, this was technically the second debate, but it's supposed to be the third. I'm glad we didn't
Right.
have another one because I think we've all had enough. But you know, one
Right.
of the things that Trump seemed to do repeatedly in this debate, and I'm curious as to whether you think this was tactical, intentional, and helped him or hurt him, is that Trump kept bringing up Hillary Clinton, Barack Obama, and it seemed at times like he was arguing that he was running against Hillary Clinton or running against Barack Obama and not Joe Biden. And that seemed at the time like, you know, that was kind of silly or that was a mistake. And at the same time, Trump sort of seemed to be speaking as though he was an outsider still, like he's not the incumbent. You know, when I get elected, I'm going to do this, instead of, you know, he is elected, he is the president. So let's talk about a couple of those things, because was that a tactical mistake for Trump?
No, it was an advantage. It was an advantage for him to do it. Everybody's going like, what is he doing? Um, I think Joe Biden brought it back once, maybe, or twice to say, you're running against me. I beat Bernie. I beat so-and-so. I beat that. You're running against Joe Biden. You're not running against them. So the only thing is that he needed to turn it into casting doubt about Trump's skill and ability at that point. Oh, so you're still trying to run against Hillary. Oh, and you're trying to cast doubt and skepticism on me by associating me with Hillary or Barack Obama, because you did a masterful job of creating doubt and skepticism about President Obama being born in Kenya, where even though the fact is demonstrated it, boy, you got a lot of mileage, and a lot of people believe that because you kept repeating that branding and marketing messages to downgrade his effectiveness as a president. And that's a great marketing. And in other words,
that he's setting them up to say that, well, we all know Barack Obama was born in the United States. This is a pattern of what Donald Trump does. And therefore it casts doubt and skepticism about things that he's saying now, right?
That's right. That's right.
Yeah.
And boy, you're just trying to really just bring forward a lot of that energy that you spent 4 years ago, and you're just trying to cast it in my direction. And the only problem is I'm here and the American public can see through you. The voters can now see through you. They're not looking at you like I'm seeing through you right now. Many of the voters that are watching this thing, the millions of voters that are watching us, are now seeing through that this is a marketing and sales technique. But the reason why Trump scored points is Biden didn't have that narrative ready. He didn't have the narrative ready. So regrettably, he won points by bringing the doubt and skepticism that has been cultivated by or about the Democratic Party and sticking it on Joe Biden's podium to deal with. And Joe goes like, that's not true. You're a lot of malarkey, whatever.
Right. Yeah. When malarkey comes out, that's sort of thanks, Grandpa.
Thanks, Grandpa. Right.
But, which, I mean, it's genuine. It's coming from, when he calls it garbage, it probably lands a little better than malarkey, but
it does.
Yeah. But still, it's interesting because I remember in the first debate, if we can call it that, Trump kept trying to hang the Green New Deal around Joe Biden's neck. Do you remember that? He kept trying to say, you are in favor of, and it's part of your plan, which, like technically on the fact side of thing, I guess it's really not. I mean, there's sort of a variation on that plan that Joe is in his platform. But what Joe did something you just talked about in that debate. He said, hey, because he said, AOC, and he's talking about all these other people, Green New Deal and all that, and saying that it's, you're the same as them. And Joe was like, hey, I'm the Democratic Party. He stood up and he said, I'm the Democratic Party now. And I'm telling you what I stand for. not what all those other people want the Democratic Party to stand for. I mean, I'm paraphrasing, but I thought that was a good moment for him in that debate.
Better there.
Yeah.
He did better there. He definitely did better. It's like, and you're the Republican Party, and what the Republican Party is standing for is.
Now that would have been a nice pivot. Wow.
So the Republican Party is to stand for being, trying to make a deal and bribe a foreign leader in order to think, and that's what you were impeached with. And that's what the Republican Party is supporting. They're supporting you bribing other national things, even though it's illegal to do. And luckily you had all of them go with you, and the Republican Party stands for that. Yeah, I hear you're trying to hang that these other people are going to influence me, but I'm the leader of the Democratic Party. See, I'm actually you can feel actually I'm actually standing a little stronger than Joe did a little bit there, but and that's the way those leadership moments have got to be handled, and really regrettably it wasn't. It's like, hey, that's not crossing my desk. You think it's going to cross my desk and I'm going to sign, but whatever.
Well, one thing I think Joe did successfully, and I'm curious if you agree, is that, Trump kept trying to say everything that was wrong with America was in blue states and blue cities. And that by contrast, the red states are doing things much better. And Joe Biden actually was, I thought, very good at saying, hey, I'm going to be president of all Americans. I'm not going to leave the people in the red states behind. We're going to, lift us all up. I'm paraphrasing, but that seemed to be a good moment for Joe.
It was better. It was better for him to pull. I'm going to be a president for all the states. It's, it's not, this is not a time when you have a pandemic, or at any time, to be honest with you, is a time to divide us as a nation. And you've been dividing us for 4 years or 5 years now. It's okay if you have opinion, you have freedom of speech, but I'd rather you have freedom of speech as a private citizen than as a public servant, because you are terrible at it. I mean, all of a sudden, I just, you are terrible at it. You are terrible at unity. You are terrible at getting people to work together. Look at you can't even sign a bill before an election. You've got to hold the American voter captive with money and wait till after the vote. You don't have enough courage to pull it off. I mean, I would have called them on that one too.
Okay. Goodness gracious.
Yeah, this is very difficult. Because there's a balance. See, to get us to stick our landing here, which is really, really valuable, Tom, because you keep throwing me the ball, and in the debate, it looks like a fastball, but in our conversation, it is literally a slow pitch, and I just keep swinging the bat and hitting. You go like, damn! It's like, and I got a single, I hit a double, I hit a triple. Then some of my sentences are home runs, and this is the way language can be used in communication. And even though we're talking about the relationship between and using the debate as a communication foil, the same thing can be done by Republicans, even in the place that they're in, which is called shell shock. I don't know what to say to this guy, because otherwise he'll send a tweet and cut my head off. It's like, you want the best tweet to send back to President Trump? I'll be glad to show you the next tweet to send back with him when he says the next chaotic thing that he says. All right. The way to stick this landing is that there's two levels of communication going on here. There's a context, that's what's being spoken at the debate, and a subtext, which is what need is driving that sentence. The reason why you and I are doing these things is get the listener to understand the difference between context communication, which has a lot of violence in it, and subtext that has a lot of gravity, integrity, and peace in it. So if we want to get our nation to restore itself, we may want to have a different communication, and media has got to help us with this. And because otherwise we're going to be fighting for ratings and stepping on each other's, everything from toes to feet to necks if we don't cut it out, because this is not healthy for us to communicate this way. There were 63 million people that watched this debate. 63 million out of the 300 plus million people that are going to vote. The ones that did not watch the debate are working on the belief biases from the past. And regrettably, what's accumulated is doubt and skepticism, not just from Republicans, not just for Democrats, but for the political system, which is in favor of Russia, China. It's in favor of them to have us to have discord. It's in favor that helps them, because if we're not unified, that allows them to pick us off. But if we're voting and acting as a block of 300 million people all at once, we get to maintain a vibrant, energized, engaged economy. If we don't, then we become cities who have to negotiate a deal with China, or a state that negotiates a deal, which is actually what happened with California and other states. We had to go to the nation of China independently of the federal government and then try to negotiate a deal, which costs us more and makes us weaker. So unity is what we're up to next. Being able to adjust our narrative and choose between what narrative we're going to run. Are we going to run a narrative of separation, or are we going to run a narrative of unity? Well, all you got to do is look at the two candidates, and well, if you want separation and isolation, go with Trump. And if you want unity and a greater sense of collaboration, to the best of the ability of that, hurting the United States of cats, not of America.
Hurting.
It's hurting cats.
Yeah.
You got to try to get them all to work in the direction. Anyways, so Tom, very, very interesting discussion today. I know that, people can leave comments and, for sure reach out, and if they want a further conversation about how to communicate more effectively in government, in business, in personal life, man, just reach out to get better communication support for those, for those around you. So
sounds good. Okay, Bill. Well, yeah, I think that's a good way to leave it. How, if you want further division and separation, go with Trump. If you want unity and collaboration, go with Biden. And maybe that was maybe the overarching message that came out of the debate. Right.
That's right. And that's the way you got the voters got to think about it. And there's nothing wrong with certain elements being in isolation, and there's nothing wrong with certain elements being collaboration. It's like, who's going to get you there though?
Yeah. Agreed.
And then that's even a better way to vote. It's like, who's going to get both of those things?
Well,
all
right, Bill. Thanks so much.
All right. More to come. All right. Thanks, Tom.
Thank you for listening to this Purchasing Truth podcast. We trust that you have enjoyed this engaging and thought-provoking conversation. Our hope is that you've received value, found clarity, and broadened your truth perspective in this episode. If you did, leave us a review or visit our website, purchasingtruth.com. Join us again for another informative and content-rich discussion here at the Purchasing Truth podcast. Don't just accept whatever information comes your way. Join the discussion. Discover your own voice. Purchase your own truth.